Hello everybody, welcome to the webinar. My name's Steve Richardson. I'm a director at PWP Inspire and I'm your moderator today. So for anybody who doesn't understand Zoom, which was me until quite recently, at the bottom of your screen you should be able to see a chat icon in the toolbar, and you can hover your mouse over the Zoom window if you can't see the toolbar. Click on the chat icon in the toolbar, and you can put a question to the panelists, and we'll get back to you with the answers hopefully at the end of the webinar. Keep your mute on whilst the webinar is in place, otherwise we get a load of background noise, which is a bit off-putting. And finally, I'd like to introduce you to today's presenter. It's my fellow director, Steve Price, and over to you, Steve.
Thanks very much, Steve, and thank you everybody for making the time to listen to our webinar this afternoon. We appreciate that these are unprecedented times with great uncertainty and concern for you all. We want you to know that we're here for you, albeit I know remotely, but to give you whatever support we can to get you through these difficult times. So, you know, our core purpose, one of our core values, is about making an impact. And you know, we've said this week, in light of the virus and the crisis that is upon us, we need to be able to make a positive impact, whatever that can be, upon our clients. And so that's what we're intending to do with this webinar today, and with the services that we want to announce during this webinar. So with this core purpose in mind, we're here to share with you practical things you can do to mitigate the impact of the current COVID-19 pandemic on your business and on your family life. Before I kick off then, I just want to give you a thought from the day, and it comes from John F. Kennedy. When written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of two characters. One represents danger and the other represents opportunity. Now these two Chinese characters, they're here on the screen, and they are Wei and Ji. Regardless of the fact that JFK was not entirely correct in his translation, the mistranslation is now so widely spread it's even used by some native Chinese speakers. But regardless of that, what we are faced with now is most certainly a crisis. At the same time, it's a time of real opportunity. An opportunity for you, there's three possible opportunities: to take a leadership role in helping your team at their time of greatest need, in being proactive in communicating with clients, and in making a plan for a more sustainable and resilient business, or in the worst case, making a plan to exit your business with the minimum negative impact on you and your team. So let's have a look at today's agenda. First of all, we're going to talk about the required mindset in these difficult times. We talk, when we're doing some of our seminars, we talk a lot about mindsets. It's very important that if you're going to take hold of something and manage it, be a leader, you need to have the right mindset. Then we're going to start to have a look at building the right plan for yourself, your team, and your business. We'll then go over a few elements of the support available, and we're going to talk through your next steps. And as usual, and as Steve already said at the start, we'll have a Q&A session at the end. I believe I am competing with Boris Johnson for your attention right now. So thank you very much for that. I'll see what I can do in terms of interest. And we're hoping to be wrapped up for about 6 o'clock, where I'm sure a recording of what Mr. Johnson says will be available. So first of all, the first mindset. A lot of you will have heard us talk about this before. To put us all in the right frame of mind, I want to share the most powerful business model that we use, and it's called Orbed. In a time of crisis, we have two choices about how we can respond. And the way we put this is we can either act below the line or act above the line. Below the line actions would go something along these lines. We blame someone else for bringing a virus into our country. We then make excuses why there is nothing we can do about it, or we go into denial that there is even an issue, and in so doing put ourselves, our team and our business at risk. Or we can work above the line. If we're going to work above the line, we take ownership that we can and we must do something to protect ourselves and our business, even if that comes down to actually closing our business. We recognise that we are accountable to our team and our clients at their time of greatest need, and we take responsibility for protecting ourselves, our team, our customers and our business from these difficult times. The fundamental mindset here is that we have a choice, and we mustn't take on a victim mindset in these times. So we go from victim to victor. As well as acting above the line, we also have to consider who we need to be in these times. In other words, our personal brand and identity. So what's this all about? Those of you who came to our Building a Better Business seminar last month will have seen me go through this mindset on the flip chart. But basically, the be, do, have principle is very important. If we are not careful, we could end up acting like this. When I have got through these pressing client matters, I'll be able to do things like make a plan to get through this and talk to my team about what all this means for them, so that I can be a great leader of my business and team. So what we have there is have, do, be. But a far better mindset to have is the other way round. In order to be a great leader of my business, I need to do things like update my plan and get proactive with my team and my customers during this time of crisis, and then I will have the most successful business I can in these difficult times. It actually comes from Zig Ziglar, and what his basic principle is that you've got to be before you can do, and do before you can have. It's a very subtle difference, but it matters massively, because if we don't do this right, what we will end up using is the virus as an excuse. It's only once we can have the virus out of our way that we can do stuff and become something. We need to think with a be, do, have mindset, such that we act like being that person, even though we know we don't have what we want just yet, because that's the place we need to get to. I hope that makes sense. So the third mindset actually comes from Sir Richard Branson and serves as a great reminder as to where we need to place our most energy right now. So this is really important in a time of crisis. So thinking about who we need to look after in these times. First and foremost, it's about you as the owner. But we also need to think about our team. We also need to look after our customers, and we need to look after the business. So what we find as owners are that all of our energy is split between the team, the customers, and the business itself, with very little time to look after ourselves. So Richard Branson gives us a very useful model to follow. What he says is clients do not come first, employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of your clients. So if we have a team, and even if that's a subcontracted team or contractors or whatever it might be, make sure as the owner that you're doing whatever you can to look after them. By looking after your team well, they will be well equipped to look after your customers. So for example, you might talk to your team about a pivot in your sales plan to cope with these challenging times. Maybe a new product or service that the team can pass on, and they can pass on the message to the existing or the new customers. If you pivot your sales message and your team look after or find new customers, then those customers will look after your business. And if this new sales plan is in place, the business will ultimately look after the owner. Now, I appreciate this is going to seem a little bit oversimplified, and some of you on this webinar don't even have a team. The point here is that it all starts with you as the owner. If you act above the line, remember who you need to be, and make a new plan now, it should start with your team, as they can look after your customers, etc., so that you don't get overwhelmed. If you don't have a team, then the plan needs to start with your customers, who will then look after the business. We want to help you build this plan as the business owner. So knowing that the Sir Richard Branson model starts with you as the business owner, let's talk about what you can do to improve your resilience. Your well-being is critical. Remember to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. I know that yesterday I described an oxygen mask as a gas mask, and it wasn't missed by everybody, so thank you for that, Joy. But today, this is talking about the owner putting the oxygen mask on first. Make sure you stay healthy, get as much sleep as you can, keep your exercise going, and get support if you need it. Select your information sources carefully. Try to minimize time spent on social media about this issue. Stay calm, stay connected with friends and family, and stay positive. If you're over 18 years old and have the mental ability to make financial, property and medical decisions for yourself, you can arrange for someone else to make these decisions for you in the future. This legal authority is a property and financial affairs lasting power of eternity, and one for decisions about your daily routine, medical care, moving into care home, etc., etc. It's generally recommended that you set up both a personal welfare LPA and a property and financial affairs LPA at the same time. Now is a good time to make sure you've got these in place. Your team members will be worried about job security. The government has stated that there will be job losses during this time. Be open with your team, share relevant parts of your plan with them, and be honest about the potential impacts the pandemic will have on your business. If there are to be job losses, ensure you obtain legal and HR advice on the best way to handle the restructuring and redundancy process. It's likely that people will remain in some form of lockdown in the coming weeks and possibly months. Decide what additional resources you need to provide your team with if you haven't done already. Consider how you can best utilise technology to maintain team communication. And make sure you've got a COVID-19 policy in place to keep your team safe and let them know what support is available to them. We're going to cover government support in more detail shortly, and I know a lot of you on today's webinar would have been on yesterday's as well, where we covered it in greater detail. On the comment about the COVID-19 policy, we did email out to our whole client base a template COVID-19 policy that you can use. If you didn't see that or you didn't get that, then please do contact us. We wrote it before the announcement the other evening, so it talks about social distancing rather than what can be described more closely as lockdown now, but it's a template that you can update as times change. Nextly, going round the circle, we then come to our clients. The support you offer your customers now will impact the support your customers give you in the future. Customers need to be reassured that you're still operating and that you're taking specific measures to mitigate their exposure to the virus. Your policy should cover the steps your business is taking to protect your customers. Share this information with them to offer reassurance that you're taking every practical step to reduce the risk and protect both your customers and your team. Start to review your terms of trade and update the terms to reflect your changing business practices. Share your updated terms with your customers, highlighting key changes. In particular, review your payment terms and, if applicable, your delivery terms. Remember to enforce your terms of trade at this time. Don't let customers avoid paying you, as this could have a material impact on the sustainability of your business. And just as we mentioned earlier, to put the oxygen mask on yourself first, it is essential that you make sure you have sufficient cash coming into your business from your customers. It's the cash that's the oxygen your business needs to survive. I'm going to talk more about cash flow management shortly, as there's always things we can do to positively impact on that. Let's have a look at how making plans with dealing with suppliers can also help us to improve our cash flow. So first of all, we can talk about payment arrangements or even negotiations. Where you can, start to negotiate new payment terms with your suppliers. If you can pay up front, ask for a prompt payment discount. If you don't have enough funds to do that, then ask to pay over a longer period of time. Ask if it's possible to hold stock on consignment. Where you only pay the supplier once, you've sold that stock. Look at your purchasing policies. Discuss your supplier's supply chain and the measures they're taking to continue their supply. Ask about the contingency plans for what may happen if deliveries can't be made or supplies can't be obtained. Consider whether you need to order additional stock while it's available. If it's likely to become scarce in the coming months, reduce your current minimum reordering levels and consider whether there are some items of stock that should not be reordered at all. Take a look at the return of stock. Review your supplier contracts in regard to the return of stock. Discuss whether you can return excess stock that isn't selling. Ensure contracts are updated if any terms change. And if you can't return stock, then consider discounting slow-moving stock to convert it back into cash. Then have a look at your contracts. Review the contracts you have with your suppliers. Is there a clause which would allow you to cancel orders or change the terms in this current crisis? If you cannot meet the terms of your contract, seek legal advice and obviously start to negotiate with the supplier. Review all the other key contracts with lessors of premises, vehicles, equipment. You may need to renegotiate significant terms. Don't assume that these contracts can't be renegotiated. As your current cash flow and ability to meet financial obligations may be significantly impacted, some of these key providers will be prepared to renegotiate terms. One of the most important ways to improve your business is to shorten your cash conversion cycle, and that's what you can see on the screen now. In other words, this is all about getting your cash in quicker. So let's have a look at that as a real example. So this is an example of a wholesaler. The wholesaler buys stock from suppliers and on average must pay the suppliers, in this example, 45 days after buying the stock. The stock doesn't sell though the moment it comes into the warehouse. So some stock sells quickly and other stock takes longer, and eventually some stock has to be discounted to get it moved at all. So let's say on average our stock days, or the number of days our stock is held, 60 days. When the stock is sold, we then turn it into credit terms to the customers. But a number of customers are not observing those credit terms. And on average, let's say in this example, it takes 60 days for our customers to pay. So now, with all these conversion elements, we can now calculate the cash conversion cycle. We have 60 days average stock holding and 60 days to get paid by customers, less the 45 days credit that we have provided to us by our suppliers. So our cash conversion cycle equals 75 days. That's the number of days it takes to convert inputs back into cash. Now, in difficult times such as this, we need to ensure you have a plan in place to shorten this cash conversion cycle. This is a process we would recommend you do as part of your business continuity plan. Using the numbers from your most recent management accounts, we can start to work out the above numbers and calculate what your cash conversion cycle is for you. From there, we can discuss with you how we can work together to shorten the cycle and free up some more cash. Just as an example of how significant this can be, if your debtors are 50 grand and your turnover is 500 grand over a year, then a 10-day reduction in your cash conversion cycle will put an extra £13,700 into your cash funds right now. And that's cash that you could really do with right now, I'm sure. So part of completing your business continuity plan is to work out how to free up as much cash flow as possible, and you can use this model to do it. Another area of focus needs to be on your business 101 cycle, especially in these difficult times. As we often talk about, there's a massive difference between profit and cash. I'm sure you've heard us say that time and time again. Profit is what you pay tax on, but it's the cash that is the oxygen for your business, that your business needs to survive. What is so important here is that as well as improving your cash conversion cycle, you make plans to maximize your profit. at the same time finance your business correctly. So let's walk through this business 101 cycle on the screen. Starting at the top, as an owner, you introduce cash into the business to buy assets, and obviously you might buy those. You might borrow the cash to buy those assets in the first place. Those assets are used to generate a profit. How you increase profit is to improve revenue or sales. Obviously, that's going to be really difficult to do in these challenging times, but it is still possible. You can do that, or you can increase margin or efficiency or trim the overhead expenses. So now is a very good time to be looking closely at potential new revenue lines, new potential customers, pivoting your sales strategy, or what you can do to avoid losing existing customers. At the same time, you ought to be looking at how you can improve your margins. Perhaps that's through efficiency gains, better purchasing, reduction in errors, wastage, simply discontinuing with some unprofitable product lines or services that have a poor margin. Once you've derived your profit, you need to turn that into cash. Profitable businesses can and still do go broke, especially at times like these. You need to be looking at how you can maximize your cash flow using strategies to get paid quicker. Reduce stock or work in progress by negotiating better payment terms with your suppliers. Now is not the time to be slow or lenient on debt collection. Likewise, you need to be very careful about reordering stock. Can you operate with less stock, or are there items that are likely to be in short supply? Other areas to help improve your cash flow are through better terms with your financiers. Can you go on to interest only, for example, on some of your loans? I'm going to cover more about bank loans and financing later on a slide still to come. Likewise, there are also many tax concessions that are available right now too. So you want to make sure you can access these. Again, I'll go through these later on a different slide. So talked about your cash conversion cycle and your business 101 model, but let's have a look at the 7 ways to grow your business that you may have seen before. We did a seminar on this in December, just before Christmas. I know a lot of people came along to that. This is going back to that 7 ways to grow your business. Fundamentally, all businesses grow their business by using these 7 fundamental principles. But this time we want to use the model to find other areas to focus that might reduce the negative impact of a downturn. So number 1, client retention. What can you do to delight your clients right now? Many of them will also be struggling to stay in contact and see how you can hold on to their business wherever possible. Lead generation, you should also be looking for new avenues to attract potential customers. Increasing your marketing using cost-effective methods such as social media could be a great way to attract new business. Prospect conversion rates. Make sure you are making it as easy to buy from you as possible. Obviously, not making it too easy by giving everything away, but can you offer delivery or an online ordering option at this time? I know that's been in the news a lot about restaurants being given so that they can turn into a takeaway service to just make it easier under these times to still keep delivering their service. Before the transaction value, can you encourage your customers to buy more from you? Are there other supporting products or services that they are not aware of? Number 5, the transaction frequency. What can you do to encourage customers to come back more regularly? For example, locking in their next purchase or their order, meeting at the end of the current transaction, excuse me. Or at least asking for a referral for a new customer if your work is more of a one-off nature. Number 6, looking to reduce the cost of sales. What can you do to preserve your current margins? Can you reduce errors or rework? Can you get a better price from your suppliers? Or can you focus on the products or services that give you the greatest margin? And finally, number 7, to reduce the overheads, which I think is possibly an obvious one. But nevertheless, which costs can be removed from your business altogether right now? Travel, entertainment, vehicle costs. Right now under lockdown, they're a great place to start. Often one of the highest overheads in your business are interest costs to financiers. If you add the principal reductions required on loans as well, this can be a massive drain on the business at this time. So here's a list of the ways your bank or whoever else you're using to finance yourselves could be able to help you. So we can look at increasing temporary overdraft facilities, possibly review and extend trade credit. Again, that's going back potentially to your suppliers as financiers here. Asset finance funding, loan repayment holiday, deferment of repayments or interest-only terms. Using an extension of term lending periods, short-term or hardship loans, short-term mortgage holidays, they've been in the news very recently, and business credit card options. Part of your business continuity plan should be a discussion with your bank or your financiers about how they can help you. Now, as an independent advisor, we can talk to you about this first, about the best options for you to go to the bank with. What about your business insurances? Well, most business insurance policies are likely to have exclusions for COVID-19 type pandemics, but it's still important to review your insurances. We can look at our HR matters with staff, and then insurance matters that cover theft or loss of property, statutory liability, professional indemnity, and then any insurances with your co-shareholders or co-directors. Important you check that your insurances are all up to date. Again, this is an area we can offer you some independent advice about before you contact your broker or your insurance agent. And obviously most of you will know that we do work with brokers as well, so it's always worth a chat with us if these are decisions that you're making or changes that you need to make at the moment. So the next one is your business. The government support and tax considerations. Now, clearly, this is a huge area, and I'm using one slide today, but I think I might have used a dozen or 15 or so slides to talk about yesterday. There's a much bigger topic around this area, but for anybody who wasn't on yesterday's webinar, I'll just talk through some of the more headline details that are coming in. So for any of you who are VAT registered, there is a deferral of VAT payments for the current VAT quarter. There are cash grants available. These are largely to the hospitality and leisure sector, but also for small businesses who receive small business rates relief or rural rates relief. And it's been amazing actually over the last couple of days, and particularly since yesterday's webinar, how many people didn't realise that they were eligible for some of these cash grants. If you are applicable to small business rates relief, then regardless of whether you're in the hospitality and leisure sector, then you should be able to take use of a £10,000 cash grant. We've got changes to statutory sick pay kicking in from day one rather than day 4. Also, the fact that employers can recover this now, which has not been something that's been in place for years. The big one, the biggest of all of them, is the job retention scheme. And we all learned a new word last week called furloughed workers. There's still an incredible amount of detail that's needed to fill the gaps on this, but already business owners and employees are starting to see that perhaps there is a more acceptable way to get through this, through the support that's been offered by the government. And I know myself and Steve and most of our team have probably had conversations covering this for most of the last couple of days. We've then got the business interruption loan scheme, which is being run via the banks, as I'm sure you'll be aware. And then there are also business rates holidays as well. And again, they are largely sanctioned around the hospitality and the leisure industry. That is just a choice selection of some of the implications. If you're not aware what they are, we can offer you more specific advice on those. So what about your next steps? So we've set out for you in this webinar today, we've set out for you the mindsets that you need to have in these difficult times, what you need to do to look after yourself, the team, your customers. We've shared some ideas on how you can improve your sales, your margin, your profit and your cash flow, even if that means an improvement is slowing the speed of decline. We've shared in general terms what support is available from the government and other sources. And again, I will make the point, as changes come along, and they will, because that's the one thing we know, changes are certain at the moment, we will be running more update webinars on this, so we will alert you as to when they come. But now it's essential that you decide what you're going to do. Clearly, doing nothing is not an option. Now's the time to put that oxygen mask on yourself and make a plan to get yourself through this crisis. Even if that plan involves closing your business, you are better off to make that decision sooner rather than later. Part of that plan is surround yourself with experts, people like us, your bank, legal advisors, HR advisors. We are all there to help you. Remember to stay above the line and live into the be, do, have mindset. Focus on what you can do. With this in mind, we've developed a business continuity plan and a guide, which I'll show you briefly now. Go into Word. So, as I said in yesterday's webinar, these are resources that we're more than happy to give to you, and we're happy to send these out. We've got a list of everybody who is registered on this webinar today. We will send these resources out to you. I'm going to talk you very, very briefly through what it is we're going to be sending you. And basically, there's two documents. We've got the business continuity plan itself. So as I slowly scroll through what it includes, you'll see that it's largely based upon the slides as I've talked through the individual points. Put in this business continuity plan is almost a tick list of going through all the factors we've just been talking about to make sure ourselves, our customers, ourselves, our team, our customers, and ultimately our business are all as safe as can be and robust. We've put together this plan which allows you to build all these factors in, to make decisions and to put this plan together. Obviously, I'm not going to go through this in detail now. I'm trying to slowly scroll through to show you what it includes. This is coming on its way to you to help you put this in place for your business over the next few weeks. And to accompany that plan, we've got a set of guide notes as well. Now, this doesn't really make for good showing on a webinar because it is very detailed notes, but I just wanted to give you an idea of the scale of how we've put this together. So it sits alongside the plan and gives you notes as to how best you should fill it in. Inspire are happy to give you all this away. We're living in very unprecedented times, very, very, very difficult times, and we're happy to give these resources away to you so that you can be best equipped to deal with these times as best you can. We believe we've come up with something here that will hopefully give you at least a fighting chance of getting through them. As I say, my intention is not to talk you through them all. That would take some time, and there's quite a lot of detail in there. But those notes accompany the plan that we're talking about. So just going back into presenter mode there. So how can we help you then? So as we discussed, our recommended strategy is to complete a business continuity plan, and that's why we've developed a plan template and a guide to help you to do this. And what we've got now is 3 options in what you can do with that plan. So I'm going to talk you through these 3 options, and you can already start to see we're sharing some of our fees with you here, so you can start to make the right decision for you and your business. So option 1 is to meet us. Obviously, this is going to be an online meeting, and I think that goes without saying in the current times. So we can do this together, even as one session up to 4 hours, or we can split it down into bite-sized chunks. And the advantage of this approach is that we'll be able to make sure you get all of the entitlements to support that are available. We also believe that combining your expertise with our expertise will result in a far better plan. Now, we've reduced our fee, what we would normally charge on this, to 50% of our normal rates. We want to try and make this as affordable as possible in these difficult times. Even having said that, as you can see, even paying half the rate is not the only option here. So let's talk about option number 2 then. Option number 1 is working with us to do it. And I know a lot of our clients have already done this kind of process with an annual business plan. It's a similar process, but it's focused very differently because obviously this is now a business continuity plan. The second option, and obviously comes in much more affordable, is that we share the plan template and guide with you so that you can complete the first draft of the plan on your own, and then we'll have an online review meeting with you, and that's going to last probably somewhere between an hour and a half. And that option is going to suit people who feel comfortable preparing plans themselves and are not inundated with other things to do right now. The risk, obviously, in this approach is that you're not going to have our assistants there with you, but we can come in at the end and review it and see it stacks up financially and give you our opinion on it. And obviously, as you can see, that comes in at a much reduced price. And again, we have discounted it to 50%. So with this kind of a session, a review session like this, we'd normally be looking to charge 350, but we will be doing that at 175. And then the third option is absolutely free. We're going to share the plan template and the guide with you, and then you can do the work for yourself. Obviously, you are doing this on your own. You don't have our guidance through it, but we are providing the guidance notes. What we want to be able to do is offer up a DIY solution to you. There will be businesses now where every penny counts, especially in these difficult times, and it was important to us that we had that free option as well. This isn't about us selling upgraded services. This is about us trying to come to our local business community, to our clients, and say, we know there will be clients. We've already spoken to clients. We've already got bookings on these for different people who want to do different levels of involvement with us. And so we think we've achieved that in providing these three levels. And we know also on the webinar today, there are also people who aren't our clients. We've gone out to the wider community. We do want to try and make an impact beyond our current business. And for anybody who's listening who isn't a client and who's starting to like the idea of what we might be able to provide in these times, then what we would suggest is we can then book in a complimentary meeting with you and discuss potentially how we might be able to work further with you. I'll be really honest and say I've not come across another accountant in Manchester who's offering this kind of proactive service to help their clients right now. So, we appreciate it may be difficult to commit to spending any money at the time of this crisis. So we have, and I hope you can appreciate, we've tried to do as much as we can. We've taken 50% out of our fees and give you the free of charge option. But more importantly, we want you to be able to claim your maximum entitlement to government and other support right now and without delay. We expect that the entitlements you will get will be far greater than our fee. But more importantly, it's about making your plan as quickly as possible. What we'd like you to take from this webinar today is that we are definitely here to help. What I haven't put on the slide there, I'll just touch on very quickly. Excuse me. What I haven't put on is our ability to work through cash flow forecasts with you as well. Now, part of a business continuity plan will ultimately involve cash flow forecasting. We've tried to come at this from two different price points as well. We've got a free version, which again, we're happy to give away. It's an Excel template. It's very simple to use. It will allow you to put in cash inflows and outflows over the coming days, weeks, or months as you see fit. We can give you that template. You can use it. You can apply it in your business, and you can run what if scenarios. There will also be clients who need more than that, and they need what we call proper financial modelling around this. And so also for a fee as well, we're able to provide a full, what we call three-way cash flow forecast, which includes your profit and loss, your balance sheet, and your cash flow. Now that's a service that we generally charge at £800, but again, we're gonna strike through 50% of that and offer that service for £400 right now. I hope you can see the assistance that we're trying to give our community. So at that stage, I'm going to hand back to Steve. I'm going to see if there's been any questions during the duration of the webinar. Steve, have you got anything?
Very little, really, Steve. Deborah makes quite a good point regarding different directors each month. Can you furlough a different director each month? Maybe I can answer that. First thing to say, Deborah, is that a director can only really claim if they're not working. So they must follow the same rules as other employees. So a director generally manages his own business, and even if there have been furloughed employees, maybe he still has to do that. But assuming that that's not the case, then yes, you can furlough a director. You can furlough a director each month, which is the question you asked, or more than one director at a time. However, depending on how you structure your director's remuneration, most directors, as you know, will take a salary equivalent to the primary threshold for national insurance, which in the current year is £8,600. So if you furlough, you would only be able to claim 80% of that. As it stands at the moment, you would not be able to claim the dividends, which most owner managers of businesses will use to top up their income. Now, tomorrow, we're getting a statement on the self-employed. If you're on the webinar yesterday, I talked about this, and it may be for those directors who take dividends, there may be something that's announced on the back of the self-employed rules as well, but we'll wait and see on that one. So Joy, thank you for your kind words. We're glad to be able to support you and help you during this difficult time. Steve, no, yeah, we did clash with the PM, unfortunately, but my spies tell me that he didn't say very much. So hopefully you haven't missed anything there, and you can pick it up on the news later. Dan, this is maybe one for you, Steve. How would you recommend we effectively manage any outstanding debt collection, given that many customers will be managing their own cash flow very tightly and may not be paying supplier invoices?
Yeah, so that's a difficult one. It's a difficult one in normal circumstances. It's made even more difficult in these difficult times as well, because they're going to be thinking the same thing as you, but on the flip side of it. But that's all the more reason why you need to be on the front foot, and you need a plan in which to do it. If some of your customers are just going to shut down and not release any cash, etc., then you need to know that sooner rather than later. One of the worst things we can do is go after false revenue. Revenue that doesn't turn into cash is false in these times. We talked earlier on about the cash cycle and how we can shorten that. If it never converts into cash, then it's no cycle at all and it's no use to you. I know all that is obvious, but to know that sooner rather than later is more useful. It comes down to credit control. It comes down to having closer relationships with clients so that you can have proactive credit control. Again, that is very much the same as saying the sooner you know that's the case with them, the sooner you can stop trading with them. You've got to put yourselves first in these circumstances. My interest, our interest is in protecting you as our clients, and as we go through the business continuity plan with you, this is exactly the sort of thing we need to firm up with you on purpose. Unfortunately, these things work in chains, so if somebody does this to you as your customer, the problem is, will you then be forced to suppliers? So we have this this cascading effect, and we often see that. Well, we've seen it recently in the construction industry. I don't think that really fully answers your question at all, Dan, but it's you know, there is it comes down to credit control. And if you do want to look at doing this business continuity plan, we can go into a lot more detail about how we can perhaps make that more effective in your. Steve?
Okay, thanks, Steve. So Simon, is furloughing seen as a gap in service? No, it isn't. An employee on furlough is basically still an employee who's having a temporary break. So it's not seen as a gap in service. If the last 3 months is backdated to 1st of March, it will finish end of May. That's correct. Is it likely to be extended? Well, we don't really know. That I think depends very much on how the virus is treated and whether or not we're starting to see a flat line and hopefully decrease in cases of infection. So we don't know that yet, but the government have said if need be, then they will extend the 3 months, which you're quite right ends at the end of May. That's about it, Steve, I think. Yeah, nothing else at the moment, so I'll let you finish off.
Okay, thanks very much, Steve. I think after the webinar yesterday, we were inundated with questions, and not surprisingly, and even today, you know, a lot of them still revolve around the job retention scheme and this issue of furloughing, and the questions, you know, we will expect to continue to come. Today's webinar has been more about planning. Obviously, it's been less about updating you with the news. We're told it'll be evening time tomorrow, so we might pencil in a webinar, an update webinar on Friday to bring that news to you. And I think, you know, I would expect to see a lot of self-employed and directors on that particular webinar, because we're, fingers crossed, we're hoping that those updates will come with good news for that sector there. But in terms of your business plan, we can't underline it enough. We are going to give you the tools to write your own business plan. We're also going to offer you the opportunity to work with us to build that business plan as robustly as you can. What choice you want to make is entirely up to you. But following this webinar, we're going to send out a questionnaire to you, which will allow you, you know, to give us the options on which way you want to do it, and we'll take it from there. Our aim here, and I have already said this, but I do really want to push it, our aim is not to push our services here. Our aim is to help our clients and help our communities. Some clients will want more of our help, and we will charge for that, but we've come in at a level today where we want to give something to try and help us all get through this, this particular period. So thanks for making the time to attend today, and we appreciate that your time is very valuable right now, and we also appreciate that we've been competing with the PM. So thank you for your attention. We hope that we've given you plenty of ideas to think about and some clear options for how we might be able to support you. So before I go, I'm just going to share this last quote with you. Anyone can lead when the plan is working, but the best lead when the plan falls apart, and that's by Robin Sharma. Let's make sure you have a new and better plan to get through this difficult time. I'd like to thank Steve for joining me on this webinar, and I'd like to thank you all for attending.